This is Jarrod Horak for the RunawayHorse.com, and I'm going to recap the Belmont Stakes in this week's video. Just going to go through the whole Triple Crown series as well, and then I'm going to look forward to the Haskell and the Travers and some other big races this summer and fall, and see if which of the top 3-year-olds could make some noise in those races. This is closing weekend at Santa Anita Park for their spring meet, and I will be covering the full cards June 17th through 19th. Friday through Sunday. So if you're interested in those closing week full cards from Santa Anita Park, head on over to the runawayhorse.com. You will find those on my sales page. I will be covering the entire Del Mar summer meet this year, like I do every year. Each of those full cards, again, you can buy the full meet package if you want the picks for every day. You can buy weekend packages, weekly packages, or just individual full cards all summer long at Del Mar at therunawayhorse.com on my sales page. I'll be covering Breeders' Cup full cards this fall as well, that annual product, and coming off of a nice Triple Crown series in which I had showed a nice profit in the Preakness and the Belmont Stakes. Now, speaking of the Belmont Stakes, it was Mo Donegal, Todd Pletcher trainee, defeating my top choice, Nest, in that race, also trained by Todd Pletcher. So they finished first and second. They were my top two choices. I went with Nest as my value top choice, but I always said Mo Donegal deserved to be the favorite, and he was the deserving winner as well. In that race, for the Belmont Stakes, there wasn't a lot of pace. I mean, as you know, go back to the Kentucky Derby where there was a ton of pace. In the Preakness Stakes, the pace was more controlled. And then in the Belmont Stakes, obviously at 1.5 miles in an 8-horse field, a race without a lot of front-end speed, the pace was super controlled in that race. And the pace was set by We the People, as expected from the inside post. The question with We the People was how far he really wanted to go, and he only had that one good race, but it was at Belmont Park on a wet, sealed track. And he was able to get out there and control the pace under Flavien Prat, but he just could not keep going. When the real running began, horses like Mo Donegal and Nest were able to just get by him, and Skippylongstocking as well, who was stalking the pace. He ran a quality race as a horse that I liked as a live long shot in the Preakness and the Belmont, and he was able to spice up the trifecta a bit. But Mo Donegal had a good outside stalking trip within hailing range, just like we thought he would. He was able to take the lead in the stretch and pull clear. Now, Nest had the best 1.5 mile pedigree in the field, but she did stumble at the start, and that cost some position for her. And then I also said, prior to the Kentucky Oaks, watching all of Nest's races, that she'd like to run outside horses. She liked to stalk outside and make her move. She was not able to do that in the Kentucky Oaks, and she was not able to do that in the Belmont Stakes because she stumbled at the start and then she was stuck inside stalking. But she ended up sitting a good trip, and she just persevered. She hung in there. She got past Skippylongstocking, and she was clearly second best in a quality effort. Now, Skippylongstocking, a solid third. He was third in the Will Memorial as well. He raced wide and was mid-pack in the Preakness, but it was also a good bounce-back effort, and he's certainly gotten better at 1.1 miles and longer. And then We the People just found this company and this distance a bit too much. Was fourth, well clear of the rest. Creative Minister coming back too quickly. As I said, too many races in a short time frame for Creative Minister. Just wasn't able to move forward. Didn't think he would at 1.5 miles in his third race in 5 weeks. Rich Strike, your upset Kentucky Derby winner. I know a lot of people liked him and thought that he could do well in the Belmont Stakes. And he was training forwardly. It was just a question of the pace scenario. I said in the Kentucky Derby, the pace just fell apart. And he was the closer that took advantage. That doesn't mean that he was the best 3-year-old in the country. He just took advantage of a very opportunistic situation in the Kentucky Derby, and he was able to win that race. And they wisely skipped the Preakness. They pointed to this race, but the pace, it just didn't set up for him at all compared to the Kentucky Derby, which went 21 and change, 45 and change. They went almost 24, 48 and 2 or so in this race, 113 and change for the 6th furlong. So just did not set up for closers, and he finished 6th. And then Barber Road, the race was too far for him, and then a Golden Glider as well, just couldn't get the distance. So that's a look back at the Belmont Stakes. Now, I was able to get my suggested $20 exacta home there. The $2 exacta paid, I think, $27.60. The trifecta paid $93.75 for 50 cents. We had that one on that full card 5 times for for $2.50 worth of that one, and then got the dime super home as well for $69 and change. So over $800 cashed on that Belmont Stakes suggested wagers for those $400 wagers. And then also for the Preakness Stakes, made a nice profit, and then did not hit the Kentucky Derby because I didn't have Rich Strike. So now looking back at the entire Triple Crown series, obviously Rich Strike just took advantage of a huge pace meltdown in the Kentucky Derby, in which the top 7 horses that were up on that pace were nowhere at the end. And Rich Strike might not have been the best closer in the race on paper, but he ran the best closing race that day. Just everything went right. He snuck in from the also eligible list. He got a great ride, and he was able to pull off the upset over Epicenter and Zandon, who was third. And he looked like the best closer on paper. But as I said, Rich Strike ran the best closing race in the Kentucky Derby. And then in the Preakness Stakes, you knew the pace wasn't going to be quick after watching that Kentucky Derby, and that was the case. We did expect Epicenter to be up on the pace, but he wasn't. I just think a lot of races in a short time frame for Epicenter. He just wasn't as sharp as he was earlier this year, and he wasn't able to get involved early like they would have liked to see him in the Preakness, especially because the day before the Preakness and Preakness Day, horses on the main track that showed early pressing speed were really doing well. And my value top choice there, the fresh runner from Chad Brown, early voting, he sat the right trip, and he was able to defeat Epicenter, who tried to close, but early voting set that tactical trip, got first run, opened up, and that race was basically over, and he won it nicely over a closing Epicenter there. And then for the third place spot in the Preakness Creative Minister, they paid $150,000. They supplemented him, and he ended up finishing third. And then in the Belmont Stakes, I just went through that recap with Mo Donegal, the class of the field, clearly the class of the field. If you look at the top contenders in the Belmont Stakes, you saw Mo Donegal run well in multiple graded stakes routes, and especially at 9 furlongs. He won the Remsen Stakes as a 2-year-old, defeating Zandon, and Zandon came back and he was third in the Bluegrass, and first in the Bluegrass, third in the Kentucky Derby. And then Mo Donegal, he caught early voting late when early voting was controlling the pace in the 9 furlong Wood Memorial, and early voting came back and won the Preakness. And then Mo Donegal came back, and after finishing 5th in the Kentucky Derby after a slow start from the inside post and rallying wide, nothing wrong with finishing 5th out of 20, he bounced back with a much better trip in the Belmont Stakes. Now Todd Pletcher, in that Belmont Stakes, he's been very good. This is the fourth time that he's won the Belmont Stakes. So he's done a good job with his horses that have run in the Kentucky Derby, skipped the Preakness, and then they point to the Belmont Stakes. 4 times now, Todd Pletcher has won the Belmont. So he has a much better record in the Belmont than he does in the Kentucky Derby. So his horses must always be respected. Just remember that in the future Belmont Stakes. And then pedigree-wise, we talked about the pedigree, especially in my analysis of the Belmont Stakes, when I was talking about the dosage index and how to read dosage and which horses were going to run well based on that formula. And horses like We the People, and Rich Strike and Barber Road didn't have the dosage. It didn't look like they could get 1.5 miles based on the pedigrees, and that was the case. The horses that fit those profiles, Mo Donegal, and then Nest, who had a dosage profile that looked just like Essential Qualities, was clearly second best. So the horses with the best pedigrees that were trained by the trainer that does the best work in New York in the Belmont Stakes, and then riders like Jose Ortiz aboard Nest and Irad Ortiz Jr. aboard Mo Donegal, the local New York riders as well. So all that, the local experience there, Todd Pletcher pointing his horses to the Belmont and getting them to run good races. They were fresh horses with nice long distance pedigrees. They were the horses that ran the best races in the Belmont Stakes. So now that we've gotten through the Triple Crown Series, now we got to look ahead this summer to races like the Haskell Stakes and the Travers Stakes. There's going to be some smaller stakes races as well. The Jim Dandy, the local prep for the Travers Stakes at Saratoga this summer. So those are some of the big races that are going to be coming up, and which horses could end up doing well. Now, a horse like Rich Strike, it just seems like he needs a pace meltdown. The only way he's going to beat horses like this is if a bunch of horses go out there and they set a contested pace and they set it up for him. If he does not get that set up, he can't beat horses of this quality. Now, the Preakness winner early voting, he's still lightly raced. He's had a lot of time between starts, and he's won for trainer Chad Brown. That looks like he has a lot of upside still. I don't know that he wants to go much further beyond a mile and an eighth. He wasn't able to get the mile and 3/16 with that really good trip in the Preakness Stakes. I don't know that he's going to get better as distances get longer, but he's got that good early pressing speed. He still has upside. He's fresh, and he's going to be dangerous this summer in races like the Jim Dandy and then possibly even the Travers Stakes as well. Now, Chad Brown is really loaded because he has Zandon, your third place Kentucky Derby finisher, and he's lightly raced. He's had a lot of time between starts, and he was really training well ahead of the Kentucky Derby, and he ran well in that Kentucky Derby, rallying to finish third. And he's one that I think a mile and a quarter should be perfect. I wouldn't be surprised if a horse like Zandon was able to win a race like the Travers Stakes this summer, especially if the pace is on the more honest side, because he does like to come a bit off the pace. Now, Mo Donegal, certainly one in the Travers Stakes that you could consider a contender. He's a solid late runner. He's another one that needs that pace help, and when he gets it, he can be dangerous. Another Chad Brown trainee that did not run in the Triple Crown Series, he's been sprinting, and that's Jack Christopher, and he looked outstanding winning the Woody Stevens Stakes at 7 furlongs on that Belmont Stakes undercard, and he got the top buyer speed figure for any 3-year-old in the country for winning that race. So he's right now one of the fastest 3-year-olds, if not the fastest 3-year-old, at least up to 7 furlongs. And a one-turn mile, but he hasn't gone past that yet. So now we're going to find out how far he wants to go. It looks like they're going to be pointing to the Haskell for Jack Christopher. So he's one that I think, looking at the Haskell Stakes, a horse like Jack Christopher with that speed, he could be very dangerous. I would not be surprised if he got a mile and an eighth. Chad Brown thinks he can go that far, and he's been making all the right moves this year. So I would not doubt that Jack Christopher could be one that makes a lot of noise in that Haskell Stakes. Now, Epicenter for Steve Asmussen, he's been the most consistent 3-year-old. If looking overall at the Triple Crown Series, and then before that, he was just finishing first and second in all those races that he competed in the Derby points races, and then in the Derby and the Preakness. And he's one that he's versatile. He can kind of beat you anyway, but he seems most effective when he can get involved earlier. The Kentucky Derby, he wasn't able to get involved early like he likes to because the pace was so fast. And then in the Preakness, for whatever reason, he just wasn't as sharp. He didn't get out there like they would have liked to have seen him get out there. But he was second best that day, a decent effort. And I can see Epicenter making some noise in these races like the Jim Dandy and the Travers Stakes, especially if he can find and rediscover that good early pressing speed that he had earlier this year. So those are some of the top 3-year-olds out of the Triple Crown Series. And then a horse like Jack Christopher, the fresh horse that could make some noise. Maybe we'll see Taiba and Messier on the West Coast do something later this year. We'll have to see. They were highly regarded, but the West Coast horses haven't been as good as some of the East Coast counterparts in these other bigger Triple Crown races and then prior to that as well. So they're going to have to pick up their game a bit, but they still have upside, and we'll see how those horses can do if they come back east and run in races like the Travers Stakes or the Haskell Stakes as well. So that will wrap up a look at all of those horses, and then Nest. Obviously, should talk about her as well. I liked her in these longer races. I just think the longer the better for her. For a while now, ever since she won the Demoiselle and showed all that stamina, that I thought she could really do some damage in those longer races. And I particularly saw a race like the Grade 1 Alabama at Saratoga this summer as a good target for her, because that 10 furlong distance should hit her right between the eyes. So look for Nest, possibly running in the Coaching Club American Oaks at Saratoga at 9 furlongs. If not, they're just going to go straight into the Alabama. And I think she's going to love that 10 furlong distance. So that's a look at some of the top 3-year-olds, where they're going, what they have done so far. And I've had, and talking back at my success in the Triple Crown Series, minus the Kentucky Derby, obviously, but doing well in the Preakness and Belmont. And I'll be doing those cards every year, the Triple Crown Series cards, like I always do. I've been selling full cards online since 1998. Southern California is my circuit, so I do Santa Anita Park. Anytime Santa Anita's running, I do the full cards. Del Mar as well, that track, and then I do Triple Crown and Breeders' Cup in between. So that's the look back at the Triple Crown Series for 2022, and now we'll be looking forward to the Breeders' Cup. Check out my Breeders' Cup Win and You're In video series. I've done 2 so far. I had the winner last week. Flightline didn't pay a lot, but one of the top horses in the country, obviously. Flightline won that Met Mile. I had the Colt Exacta there. And looking ahead, just keep checking out my channel this summer. I'm going to be doing a lot of Breeders' Cup Win and You're In videos throughout the summer into the fall. And then also I'll be covering obviously the Haskell and the Travers. And I'll be doing some other handicapping videos, how-to videos, and looking back even on these big days. So I'll go back through and I'll look at cards like the Preakness and the Belmont and even the Derby. And I'll go through and do a video on looking at the big days, how to approach the big days from a handicapping standpoint, how much money you should bet, how many races you should be betting, what kind of races you should be betting. So I'm going to go through next week. I'm going to have a full card break before Del Mar starts I think Del Mar's going to be starting in July 20 something, somewhere in there. They're going to start a week later this year, and they're going to be ending a week later. So I'll be later this summer in mid-July, I'll be starting my Del Mar full cards. But in the meantime, I'm going to have a full card break for a few weeks. I'm going to try to do more videos on this channel. And until I see you next time, good luck at the races.